about fleet in general, we have two sort of primary cost components, fixed and variable costs. And when you think about, the overall spend analysis around fleet and why it's so important to the bottom line, you think about a fleet asset. A Class 8 tractor ranges in price from $120,000 all the way up to $150,000. So a pretty massive investment on the corporation's part. If you think you have a fleet of, say, 500 assets, okay, and you're on a 5-year life cycle, you're buying 100 of those assets annually. That's a pretty big number. So to sort of push fleet off to the side, if you will, if you're a private fleet, as sort of a necessary evil of the organization and the distribution of your products and services, the spend is very crucial in your sort of product per item distribution costs, if you will. So you take that massive investment that you make in fleet assets, and on top of that, you look at things like fuel spend at 8 miles to the gallon, cost of fuel at $2.75 a gallon, $3 per gallon, days gone by, $4 per gallon. You can see how these costs ramp up exponentially every mile that the assets run. Tires, parts, lubricants all play a huge role in the variable expenses associated with supporting the massive investment that you made in the fleet assets. So by ignoring fleet spend and doing a deep dive analysis in every area of your fleet spend, you're really leaving a ton of money on the table. How you finance your assets, again, very critical in how those assets will perform and also the expense associated with those assets. The financing is directly related to the asset's life cycle, okay? So how you finance it, be it a track lease, a ownership, fair market value lease, all play a role with respect to the overall fixed expense associated with those assets. So when we do a spend analysis, we look at that for sort of fixed asset financing costs and understand how does it translate? How am I getting the biggest bang for my buck, if you will, on an investment of over $130,000? On my fuel spend, am I negotiating fuel prices and programs with my suppliers that will accommodate for increases or decreases in fleet, increases and decreases in area of operation, whatever it may be? But am I getting best in class in fuel? The top two spend items in fleet, fuel and tires. The second thing, tires. All right. When we do a deep dive analysis of where we're spending our dollars on tires, are we using best in class supplier? Okay. Are we getting the service that we need in the marketplace? Downtime kills productivity, and it's a huge expense to fleets. So all of these categories, you can see that it just sort of slowly grows and grows and grows and grows. And we have to look at each and every aspect of fleet spend because each one has a direct impact. That expense has a direct impact on the bottom line. Productivity, if I'm not meeting my delivery schedules, I lose customers. Okay. Top line revenue suffers. All right. But ultimately, the expense side of fleet is absolutely critical. I have to manage it like there's no tomorrow because the bottom line is directly impacted by every aspect of fleet spend. Tires, parts, lubricants, MRO, all of that impacts bottom line. It impacts personnel. Okay. If I have an old fleet and it needs excess maintenance, I need more mechanics. All right. So now I'm starting to grow personnel. So you can see how all of this various spend will feed upon itself based upon how I manage it. All right. And identify it and make sure that we are vigilant in everything that we do within the fleet as it relates to the expenses on the fleet supply, fleet management, and ultimately the lifecycle management of the assets. So we'd love to work with you and your team, do a deep dive analysis of where you're spending all your dollars in fleet, and identify the massive amount of savings that can be identified and obtained by doing a deep dive spend analysis, and really sort of bolster your bottom line. Thanks.